Today's topic of discussion is power dynamics. So right now in today's society, there's a lot of guys who are getting emasculated by their women. They're getting violated on a day-to-day basis. They're getting disrespected and they're losing power in their relationships. So in this video, we're going to be discussing some key points in terms of how these guys are getting emasculated every day and how they're losing control. So first point is control. Now I'm going to play this 1-minute clip of Will Smith having a mental breakdown. So I'll play it now for you guys.
Now I know to do what we do, you got to be able to take abuse. You got to be able to have people talk crazy about you. In this business, you got to be able to have people disrespecting you. And you got to smile and you got to pretend like that's okay. I want to apologize to the Academy. I want to apologize to all my fellow. I look like the crazy father, just like they said. I look like crazy father, just like they said about Richard Williams. But love will make you do crazy things. Being able to love and care for my mother and my family, my wife. I'm taking up too much time. Thank you for this honor. Thank you for this moment. And thank you on behalf of Richard and Oracene, the entire Williams family.
Okay, so you guys are back now. You've had a watch of it. Now, that right there is a prime example of a guy who's been completely emasculated. He's been getting emasculated and disrespected on a day-to-day basis. You know, Jaden Smith, his wife Jaden, she's completely broken that guy. She's broken him down completely. You know, so when he slapped Chris Rock at the awards, after that he had done his speech and he had his little breakdown. I mean, this is what happens when guys don't have control over their relationships anymore. They just let women dictate everything. Now, if you look at, for example, modern day couples, right? The whole feminism, 50-50 type stuff. What does that lead to? It leads to men starting off with 50% of the control of the relationship and the woman has the other 50%. So you got man paying half the bills, woman paying half the bills. Man doing half the protected, women doing half the protected. I mean, it's just embarrassing, isn't it? You know, so if there was an intruder that comes in, the man says to his wife, "Last time, honey, I took care of it. It's time for you to do it now." I mean, are people actually that stupid to follow feminism? You know, there's no such thing as 50-50 in a relationship. It doesn't work. Now, this is what happens when you destroy traditional gender roles. Now, what happens is with these modern day couples, they've decided to give control over to the feminists. So the feminist in the relationship is the woman. She's dictating half the decisions. And she's saying, "Oh yeah, we need to spend money over here. This is where we're not spending money. I'm going to spend my money on handbags here. I'm going to go and get some nice shoes, some purses, and then blow our bank balance. And then I'm going to get you to start working longer hours." You know, this is what's happening with guys. Guys are just getting fully emasculated. They ain't even got the money in their bank account to fund the lifestyle. And then women are taking them for a ride. Now, some people have got joint accounts, and I remember when I was during COVID time, I was working in HSBC, Barclays, and a few other banks. I was doing security work there, and I would have guys coming in. They'd be pouring their heart out to me. They'd be saying to me, look, I've got a joint account. My missus has cleaned out the bank account. She's taken all the money. Completely rinsed it. And she's done a runner. I mean, I remember hearing these stories and I was just like, whoa. Imagine being in that position there where a woman just has full control over the money and she can just take everything. So it's really important when guys are getting into a relationship with a woman, they discuss all these important points, and then they tell the woman from a get-go, look, this is how it's going to be. I'm going to be providing you with food, shelter, accommodation as the bare minimum, because that's what the Deen teaches us. That's what the basic necessities are for a wife. And anything after that, he wants to get her like a gift, or he wants to get her some other stuff, wants to go on holidays and stuff like that. That's all added stuff. But guys in today's society, they don't want to ask these questions. They don't want to explain to a woman, this is how it's going to work. This is how I see our relationship. They just give full power and control over to a woman. And then eventually, she just starts to emasculate him. So, next point is loose. This is a good one. How many guys do you lot know where they've let their women be loose out on the streets? Now, the woman does what she wants. She goes out whenever she wants. She doesn't take no instructions. She doesn't take no orders. She doesn't follow no one. If anything, she's giving orders and instructions to the man. She's telling him when his bedtime is. I mean, there's certain relationships like that out there. Can you guys believe it? Where a woman's coming home, right? She's telling the man, go do this, go do that. Why haven't you done this? Just completely disrespecting him on a day-to-day basis. I mean, these feminists, right, they talk about abusers, physical abuse that men have done over the years. They don't seem to understand that there's a lot of men out there who are getting physically abused by women. And those numbers are going to be underestimated. Because it's shameful. It's something which guys are not going to open up about. Even amongst their friend group, they're not going to say, oh, my wife is abusing me. She's being physically abusive. Because they see it as shameful. They feel embarrassed. I've spoken to certain individuals. They've told me that their partner's been abusing them. She's been physically violent towards that person. And she's just got full control over him. But at the same time, these guys have allowed that. They've allowed the women to take full control over the relationship. Then they've let the women be loose out on the streets. Just completely, no disrespect. Sorry, let me rephrase that. She just completely disrespected him. Doesn't give a damn about what his viewpoint is and letting him lead. Nah, she's her own boss. She decides what the rules are. That's what's happening with modern day relationships. That's why we're seeing divorce rates at 50%. That's why we see women initiating 70 to 80% of the divorces. Because a lot of these guys aren't men in their relationships. So, next point is emasculation. Now, you saw from that clip, right, of Will Smith, that is a man who's been emasculated. He's been getting violated on a day-to-day basis. I mean, his missus must have came on TV live talking about how she cheated on Will Smith. She was talking about doing all types of dirty acts on so-and-so. And Will Smith's just there, just nodding his head along. As soon as a woman cheats, as soon as a woman has done infidelity, you need to cut that relationship off. No return. That right there should be straight away divorce. It's just completely unacceptable for both men and women in general to be committing zina and, committing adultery. But when a woman has cheated on the guy, chances are she's lost all respect for her husband. Because that's the stage that it gets to. A woman doesn't just cheat randomly. It's not like with a guy, he can be, let's say, impulsive and he gets turned on or whatever. With a woman, she needs an emotional connection. She needs to lose the attachment with the husband. And then once she's lost that attachment with the husband, then she just goes out there and cheats. That's why with those relationships, guys need to just cut it off. So, final point is exit. What happens is with these modern day feminists, power hungry creatures, once they've gained control, once they are loose out on the streets, they've emasculated the guy, then she'll eventually exit and strip him of all his assets. You got certain narcissistic women who are like that out there. Literally just power hungry. So it's really important you guys set the power dynamics from the get-go. Don't start chasing after a woman. Don't start begging her to comply with you guys. Don't try and get her to be like, oh yeah, please marry me. Like these guys who are just simps. They're getting on one knee and they're just begging, please marry me. I mean, what sort of guy in today's society is getting on his knees and he's begging for a woman to marry him. Looking up at her like she's some sort of god. The only one that I get on my knees for is God. I don't get on my knees for no one else. And it shouldn't be like that for you guys either. You guys shouldn't be getting on your knees for anyone. So, just to wrap up, control. It's really important you guys set the power dynamics from the get-go. Because otherwise you're going to end up like Will Smith later on down the line. Completely broken. You know, he's got all the money in the world. He's got status, he's got fame. He ain't got no respect though. You know, there's a saying, death by 1,000 cuts. You know, a coward dies death by 1,000 cuts. You know, it's just completely just getting emasculated day by day. What sort of life is that? That's why I'd rather just be not in a relationship than deal with something like that. Now, until a woman shows the same level of respect, she's willing to comply, she's willing to cooperate, then I'll be like, okay, fine, that's a good relationship. I ain't trying to be in a relationship like Jaden Smith and Will Smith. No way. Kids, part of the rainbow community, they're doing all types of wild activity. Now that ain't no example. And the next one after that was loose. These guys here let their women loose out on the streets. Go, free. You can do whatever you want. The guy ain't got no principles, no boundaries, ain't got no self-respect. You know, how can these women respect that man? She can't respect him. She's gonna be like, this guy here, he just lets me do whatever I want. You know, no boundaries, no principles, no clear leadership. She can just do whatever and just come back home and just emasculate him. And the next one after that was emasculation. Once she's out on the streets, loose, comes on, okay, full on emasculation mode right now. You know, certain guys are just getting emasculated on a daily basis. You know, this is what happens when guys lose their control, when they lose their respect. You know, self-respect comes first in life. As soon as you lose your self-respect, you lose your dignity. That's when you see things going downhill. And it eventually gets to a point of no return, like Will Smith. And then the final point was exit. After a woman's completely emasculated the guy, completely disrespected him, she'll eventually just take all his assets, money, house, children, and then she'll just exit out. You know, strip him of everything. So it's really important, guys, that you guys set the power dynamics from the beginning of the relationship, during the relationship, after the relationship, even if it comes to an end. Always leave with your self-respect at all times. So I hope that makes sense, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.